surname of Begg, Portsmouth boy, became old, had children, his children had children, and on the 21st of October 2005, his family reenacted this scene by permission of the Admiralty on the quarterdeck. It was actually done again, and the family has made a note in their diary that they will do this every 100 years. He's helped up, he mops his brow, he walks around the quarterdeck, and you'll see in a moment he passes the ship's wheel. There he goes. You have to bear in mind that HMS Victory was afloat at this time. It was actually in Portsmouth Harbour. So this elderly chap was brought on a boat. He then climbed the ladder on the side of the ship, came aboard, and went through this enactment. He was a bit stiff, apparently. And he said it had changed quite a bit since he'd been on it. Just a hint of a track there, but not very much. He's now pointing out the ship's wheel and the motto about England expecting, which is lovely. The difficulty with this kind of sequence of films is very raw, and if you've been involved in the film business, you'll know exactly what the cutting room floor is covered with when you've done your work. So we're seeing very much the raw material here. We don't have any of West's assembled sequences except for this one, but it's quite nice how he points up, and then you see the long shot taken from outside the ship, and then he continues around, makes the circuit, and there's the Begg lad, wondering what on earth he's got himself into. You can just see the wreath on the ground there, on the deck there, it's been made. And then they take their hats off with a salute. This was shown at the Royal Albert Hall on the 21st of October 1905 with large numbers of people present, songs, presentations, speeches by the Mayor of Wimbledon, who made a slightly longer speech than was expected. My father took some 9.5mm film of Alfred West in 1936, and this is him at home stroking his cat and saying goodbye to you. Now, I said that in the shows that took place in the 1890s and onwards, the film was interspersed with lantern slides, and we're now going to see some lantern slides which Lester is going to put on. He's got a wonderful, you can't see it, it's an absolutely wonderful brass lantern slide device behind the screen, and we're just going to run through the slides. I think if you were a lecturer on slides, you would stand at the front with your list of slides. This isn't there. So, first slide, please, when you're ready, Mr. Lester. The first slides are going to be sailing yacht studies. These are the kind of studies that Alfred West would have made from 1881 onwards. Portsmouth Harbour, there's the fort, possibly the Horse Sand Fort. This yacht is called the Windfall. Next slide, please. This yacht is called the Unit. Gaff rigs, topsail, Isle of Wight, almost certainly in the Solent, making good speed. Next slide, please. This yacht's in a bit of trouble, bringing some sail in. It's called the Unit, and again, sailing off the Isle of Wight. Looks a bit like cows in the background. A lot of water here, and I think probably a broach too is just about to be avoided if they can. Next slide, please. This yacht is called the Dragon. He would take these pictures and, of course, sell them to the yacht owners. Next slide, please. And again, that's the Dragon, same period. Wonderful compositions. Next slide, please. Bear in mind, if you're photographing yacht racing from a small yawl with a camera stuck in it, you better not get in the way. I just wonder whether or not the air was blue at that point. Hopefully we saw some pictures. Next slide, please. This is one of the America's Cup contenders called Velzy. It's 1889 is the period it was built, and those are the kind of yachts that cross the Atlantic by sail to take part in the races in New York Harbour. So there's none of this putting the thing on a boat and then take it off the other end, the America's Cup yachts were sailed to America. Next slide, please. That's the famous one I showed you earlier on. And what's interesting is the cropping. You can see that in this lantern slide there's a lot more space for the picture. You can see Hurst Castle here. And when Alfred West used this shot, he always cropped it about here. And you can see why, because it really makes it a much better picture. You can do a great deal with cropping and framing, as those in the business will know. Next slide, please. Again, Portsmouth, Solent, Portsmouth Harbour. There's the fort, which those of you who know that area are familiar with. A nice contra jour against the light shot there, actually quite a tricky one, I think. Next slide, please. Spinnakers ballooning out, which they weren't called spinnakers, but they did the same job. Next slide, please. These yachting studies, by the way, you can still buy them. You can go to Beacons in Cowes and you can order these. They cost £150, £200 each for a print. Next slide, please. That's a schooner. And next slide, please. Again, another America's Cup yacht. The crews came from Southampton. They were working class people. They were watermen, and they were hired as the crews for these very, very rich magnates who drove the boats. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. This is the Turbinia, which was the fastest boat of its time, 1897, the first turbine-driven boat, and Alfred West was filming at the Royal Fleet Review, 1897, Jubilee Review, and this boat appeared charging down the lines of ships. Nothing could catch it, including the Naval police. They just couldn't catch it at all. And several times he just whizzed down the lines, the intention being to prove that a turbine-powered boat was much more powerful and faster than any other kind of boat. So Alfred West took some photographs, met Sir Charles Parsons, that's Sir Charles Parsons standing up there on the bridge, and he said, "Come to the Tyne, my dear boy, and film it." So he went to the Tyne and took a number of films, all now lost, we believe, of the Turbinia at speed. That's really the only shot we have of it. It's incredibly dramatic. It's now in the Newcastle Discovery Museum. If you ever go there, you can see it there. Next slide, please. These are shots made for the Admiralty to show the effect of the firing of torpedoes. You saw them a bit earlier on. These are the lantern slides from which they come. Next slide, please, and then it goes into the water. Not films, all done by instantaneous photography. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. These are almost certainly by Alfred. These are certainly by Alfred West because they're named. This is some model boats going through a model battle. Not quite sure what the purpose of it would be. Possibly in Portsmouth Harbour, possibly part of Navy Day or something. So one model boat sinks another model. I think they refloat them and tow them off and clean them up and start again. Next slide, please. And when you're ready, there it is. So I think you can just see one of the wooden walls at the back there, one of the which we use for training. Next slide, please. This picture was taken at the Jubilee Naval Review, and it's HMS Renown, and it's firing a salute, royal salute. Interestingly, these ships had their funnels next to each other rather than fore and aft. You can see that, the way the boilers were arranged. There's some wonderful photographs taken of that period by the West family, which I haven't brought now, but he documented the boats absolutely superbly. Next slide, please. And finally, this slide would have been shown at the time of the Trafalgar commemoration. That's in the cockpit of HMS Victory, where Nelson died. Thank you, Lester. The trick is to take this raw material and turn it into something interesting. I have to thank Charles Malevra, who played the organ for us recently, for what we have here.
present must have enjoyed the films and the interest that's there. If anybody's got any questions, David is here to ask them or answer them. So, any questions, first of all?
If Lester wants to come round as well, any questions about the language slide? Yes?
I've got to go and say something.
Oh, is it?
I'm happy to talk to people.
That's fine. Okay, Lester will be in the...
Anyone?
Yes, hello.
Yes. What size negative was the still count? Was it a 10.8?
It was a plate, yes it was. It was a dry plate, about 10 8. It was
Yes.
about that. And of course there was no telephoto or anything of that sort, so everything was just done as it came. The quality of lenses at that time was absolutely fantastic. That's what really makes it. You can often see flaws in the emulsion, which I think have largely been caused by age rather than at the time. But yes, they were 10.8. Which is of course how you can get these very, very big graphs.
Anybody else?
Yes?
Yes.
What sort of film stock is ready to get?
It would be 35mm film stock. It would have been commercially available. I mean, it's a very good question because I suppose that the mass production of the film stock must have started. I mean, he was a commercial man. He wasn't interested in developing his own film stocks, whatever. So he must have obtained. And it's a very good question, and I don't really know. I mean, Eastman, possibly. Nitrate 35mm, obviously, standard. But I don't honestly know. And he tells us so little in his book about these details. All those things we'd really like to know. Very hard to find out.
David, there was a photographic suppliers not far from where the studio was in Southsea.
Yeah.
King Street in Southsea.
And because it raises the question, if you're supplying 35mm stock that you can use for that purpose, you wouldn't just want one customer. So clearly there's a lot of business for that kind of film stock starting to develop at that time. And we know there was a great mushrooming, obviously, of film makers at that time. But thanks for that.
Anyone else?
So
You will have an opportunity. So.
Do we have any questions?
No.
Sorry.
No. You will have an opportunity to chat to David when we have refreshments in the Firwood Hall, which will be served very shortly. For a few moments, I'd like to introduce you to Just Honeycliffe.